The Kethavar Alpha stood motionless at the edge of the human settlement, her massive frame trembling with barely contained fury. For 3 rotations, her cubs had been missing from the pack's territory. 3 rotations of frantic searching, of following cold scent trails that led nowhere, of imagining the worst possible fates for Zara and Crix, her pride and future. The search party had finally tracked them here, to this strange collection of metal and glass structures the humans called New Karachi Colony. The Alpha's amber eyes burned as she surveyed the alien architecture, so different from the natural caves and clifftop dens her people preferred. These humans, with their soft pink skin and pathetic lack of fur, claws, or proper fangs, had somehow lured away her children. "Alpha Vorthak," rumbled her Lieutenant Grendex, his own hackles raised. "The scent trail leads directly into their settlement. Shall we retrieve the cubs by force?" Vorthak's lips curled back, revealing rows of gleaming teeth. The Kethavar were apex predators on 17 worlds, their roars capable of shattering stone, their claws able to rend starship hull plating. No species had ever successfully stolen Kethavar young and lived to tell of it.
"We go!" she snarled.
"But we observe first. I want to know what these creatures have done with my cubs before I tear their settlement apart." The pack moved like shadows through the human structures, their natural stealth keeping them hidden from the settlement's primitive sensors. Vorthak felt her rage building with each step. How dare these weak prey-like beings think they could— A sound stopped her cold. It was a roar. Not the full-throated battle cry of an adult Kethavar, but unmistakably the vocal training of cubs learning their heritage. Her cubs. But there was something wrong with it, something that made her ears twitch in confusion. Following the sound, the pack crept toward a large open area where dozens of human younglings sat in neat rows. And there at the front of the group stood Zara and Crix. Her cubs were alive, unharmed, and teaching. "Now remember," Zara was saying in the human language, her young voice carrying the authority of someone far beyond her 8 cycles. "The roar must come from deep in your chest, not your throat. Like this," she demonstrated, releasing a cub's roar that, while not yet fearsome, carried the promise of future power. The human children attempted to copy her, their efforts producing sounds that ranged from squeaky to surprisingly decent imitations. Vorthak blinked in amazement. Her cubs weren't prisoners. They were instructors. A human adult approached the group, a female with dark hair and kind eyes. This had to be one of their teachers, Vorthak realized. "That was excellent, everyone," the human said warmly. "Nehal, would you like to try the breathing exercise Zara taught us yesterday?" A small human girl with bright, determined eyes stepped forward. This must be Nehal, Vorthak thought. The child placed her hands on her chest as Zara had shown her, took a deep breath and released a sound that made every Kethavar in the hidden pack freeze in shock. It wasn't perfect, but it was recognizably a roar. A human child had just produced a Kethavar roar. "Very good, Nehal." Crix bounded over to the girl, his enthusiasm evident. "You're getting much better at projecting your voice from your core. Tomorrow we'll work on the intimidation aspect." "Will you teach us the victory howl too?" asked a human boy named Adnan, his eyes shining with excitement. Zara and Crix exchanged glances. "That's very advanced," Zara said carefully. "First you need to master the basic territorial call." Vorthak felt her worldview cracking. These weren't stolen cubs. They were willing participants. And these humans, these supposedly weak creatures, were learning the sacred vocalizations of her people. More than that, they were learning them well. "Ma'am?" Grendex whispered beside her. "What are your orders?" Before Vorthak could respond, the human teacher noticed something in the bushes. "Children, please sit quietly for a moment," she said, her voice calm but alert. She walked directly toward Vorthak's hiding spot, showing no fear despite surely detecting their presence. "Alpha Vorthak, isn't it?" the human said softly when she was close enough. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, the colony's education coordinator. I believe you're looking for Zara and Crix." Vorthak rose slowly, her massive form dwarfing the small human. "You know of me? Your cubs speak of you constantly," Dr. Chen replied with a smile. "They're very proud of their heritage, and they've been worried you'd be angry with them for staying away so long." "Why?" Vorthak's voice was a low rumble. "Why did they come here?" Dr. Chen gestured toward the children, who were watching the exchange with fascination rather than fear. 3 days ago, our children encountered Zara and Crix by the river. Instead of running from each other, they became curious. Your cubs discovered that human children have a natural aptitude for vocal learning. Our children were fascinated by HFY culture. So they stayed to teach and to learn, Dr. Chen confirmed. Nihal and Adnan have been teaching Zara and Krix about human music and storytelling. It's been quite remarkable. Vorthak looked past the teacher to where her cubs were now surrounded by human children, all of them chattering excitedly in a mixture of HFY and human languages. Zara caught her mother's eye and bounded over. "Alpha Mother," she called, using the formal address. "You found us." "We were worried you would be angry," Krix added, approaching more cautiously. Vorthak studied her cubs, noting their bright eyes and eager postures. They weren't traumatized or frightened. They were unhappy. "You left the pack without permission," she said sternly. "Yes, Alpha Mother," both cubs replied in unison. "You worried the entire tribe." "Yes, Alpha Mother. And you've been teaching sacred vocalizations to humans." Zara lifted her chin defiantly. "They have good hearts, Alpha Mother, and they're not as weak as we thought. Listen." She turned to the human children and raised her paw. As one, 50 human voices rose in a passable imitation of a HFY greeting call. Vorthak felt something shift deep in her chest. It wasn't perfect, but it was respectful, enthusiastic, and surprisingly moving. "They want to learn about us," Krix added. "And we want to learn about them. Did you know they make sounds for pure beauty? Not just communication or intimidation? They call it singing." Dr. Chen stepped forward. "Alpha Vorthak, I know this is unusual, but perhaps our species have more to offer each other than we initially thought." The great Alpha looked around at the mixed group of children, all watching her with hope and curiosity rather than fear. In her cub's eyes, she saw something she'd never expected to find among aliens: genuine friendship. "One more day," she rumbled finally. "But tonight you return to the pack for proper rest." The cheers from both human and HFY children echoed across the settlement, a joyful sound that spoke of bridges being built and futures being changed. As Vorthak watched her cubs return to their teaching, she realized that sometimes the greatest strength wasn't in the roar itself, but in knowing when and with whom to share it.